What happens when a routine shift turns into an apocalyptic blast? I'm Ethan. Tonight, Maya brings the community and safety history. Leo unpacks the forensic questions. Families are missing, officials caution, and investigators race to learn whether negligence, physics, or both caused this rural explosion. Tonight, an official narrative still forming collides with a public already stunned. A blast at an explosives campus outside Nashville left one building erased, families desperate, and a community shaken for miles.
People woke up to an apocalyptic scene, Ethan. Workers went in for a normal shift and never came home. If that does not force questions about how this facility operated, what will?
And while TV anchors say apocalyptic, the facts are still moving. Speculation spreads faster than smoke. Let's breathe, stick to what is confirmed, and watch for where media jumps ahead.
Here is what officials have said. Just before 8 a.m., about 7:45 to 7:48 a.m., a massive explosion tore through one building at Accurate Energetic Systems' rural campus. The site spans roughly 1,300 acres, with 8 production buildings and a quality lab. Aerial footage showed blackened debris, twisted metal, smoldering vehicles over at least a half-mile radius.
Residents said their houses shook 15 to 20 miles away. Debris landed in yards miles out. That is not just a plant incident. That is a community-level disaster.
And first responders, they had to hold back because of secondary blasts. That tells you how volatile the scene was and why the response must be slow and methodical, not rushed for headlines.
Humphreys County Sheriff Chris Davis put it starkly, "There is nothing to describe. It is gone." He called it the most devastating scene of his career and asked compassion for families.
He also called them missing souls. You hear the weight in that. People are not statistics. They are neighbors, parents, co-workers. Systems failed them long before the blast did.
Hold on. The sheriff stressed cautious info. Early on, officials said as many as 19 missing, then revised to 18 after finding someone at home. That is not failure. That is accuracy catching up.
On the casualty picture, officials confirmed multiple fatalities but released no death toll. Some hospitals treated a few people for minor injuries. Reports vary between 4 and 5 transported or treated. More than 300 personnel responded across local, state, and federal teams. The ATF's National Response Team, the FBI, state bomb and arson units, and others are on scene.
That ATF team is the elite unit that worked the Pentagon on 9/11, the Centennial Olympic Park bombing, Oklahoma City, and the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. Serious bench strength.
Serious bench strength should not distract from serious questions. This company's record includes a deadly explosion in 2014 and state citations in 2019 for hazardous exposures, even contamination in break areas.
Those past citations exist, but cause here is unknown. A retired bomb tech on air reminded us high explosives can detonate at 18 to 23,000 feet per second. The physics alone can overwhelm safeguards.
We should also note initial contradictions in public messaging. A state emergency official said the Department of Health had not confirmed fatalities or injuries at that early moment, yet the sheriff confirmed multiple fatalities.
That disconnect is exactly why families feel jerked around. If one agency will not say a number and another says multiple deaths, you get confusion layered on grief. Communications matter in disasters.
Or it is simple bureaucratic sequencing. Health waits to certify. Law enforcement speaks to what they see. Better that than repeating mistakes with bad numbers, as the sheriff referenced from a past flood.
Sheriff Davis emphasized a slow, methodical approach. His words, "We only have one chance at the evidence." They are stabilizing, notifying families, and building a careful reconstruction of what happened.
Let's talk about where it happened. Employees identified the melt pour building, where explosive material is melted and cast. That is a routine but high-hazard process. Routine should not mean inevitable catastrophe.
And yet routine in a high-hazard plant is never risk-free. The retired bomb tech spelled it out. Before entry, they must know what remains on site and whether anything else could ignite. That is life safety first.
There is also a discrepancy to flag. Public records and company materials say Accurate Energetic Systems manufactures and tests high explosives, including C4 and TNT. A state official said the plant processes and does not manufacture.
That is why we wait. Manufacture versus process matters for risk profiles, but in the first hours, even officials may misstate a detail. Let investigators define the facility's exact operations under oath, not on live TV.
Except this company's own materials list C4 and TNT. That is not a rounding error. If a high-hazard process was underway in Meltpur, oversight should have been airtight. Workers deserve redundancy, not luck.
To the scene basics. Initially, responders could not enter because of ongoing detonations. Later, officials said the area was secure enough for a staged, methodical approach. Families were directed to an assistance center on site grounds.
We also heard county leaders note the plant straddles a county line. Hickman and Humphreys both involved. Rural, limited cell coverage, yet they rallied multi-agency resources quickly. Credit where it is due.
And neighbors set up impromptu vigils. That is the other reality. These are defense and demolition contracts woven into a local economy. When the floor drops out, the whole county feels it emotionally and economically.
Accuracy check as we transition. Key facts. Timeline around 7:45 a.m. One building destroyed, multiple fatalities confirmed without a public toll, missing count adjusted from 19 to 18, responders in the hundreds. And investigations. ATF National Response Team deployed, FBI present, state workplace safety agencies engaged. Officials caution there will be no quick explanation for cause or accountability.
Media narratives also split on location labels. McEwen, Bucksnort, County Line. Small details drift in breaking coverage. The core scene does not drift. One building, gone, period.
Let's not drift past worker safety. In 2019, state inspectors cited serious violations tied to hazardous materials, including cyclonite contamination in break areas. Break areas, that tells you about culture.
Culture matters, yes, but causation here is unproven. The sheriff said flatly, "There will not be a short explanation. We have seen accidents at the safest sites on Earth. Complexity can defeat even good systems."
Complexity is not a hall pass. Meltpur requires strict controls on temperature, static, contamination, training, and emergency egress. If dozens work there on a typical day, the layers must protect them when one fails.
We heard a question on air about secondary explosions, and officials answered, "Scene now secure, methodical movement through the blast location. That is the right cadence. No chest thumping, just careful work."
For context, safety documents note fires involving TNT require special firefighting measures. Investigators will likely review storage records, firefighting plans, and whether those measures were implementable this morning.
They should pull maintenance logs, training rosters, shift staffing, and whether anyone flagged hazards in Meltpur. Whistleblower protections matter here, especially with defense contracts on the line.
And someone will ask whether media pressure nudged officials toward cautious non-answers. You could hear it. Do not release numbers. Do not overpromise. After a flood fiasco, they learned to slow down. Good.
On the human side, officials set up a family assistance center and a missing persons hotline to aid notifications. Company leadership publicly pleaded for prayer, saying their hearts are broken for the families.
Prayer is fine. Accountability is better. If prior fines were paid and disputes settled, we need to know what changed on the floor. Did the company invest in safety or simply move on until the next incident?
Let us be fair. Sometimes you invest and still face a black swan. The sheriff was asked to describe the building. His answer, "There is nothing to describe. It is gone. That level of destruction is not a routine violation."
It is also not random. Energetic materials blow up when conditions allow. The job of regulation and management is to make those conditions nearly impossible. That is the benchmark for high-hazard work.
We agree on the benchmark. Where we differ is timing. Push for reforms once the forensics land. Do not litigate via soundbite while teams in blast suits comb char and steel for heat patterns and initiation points.
Investigators will map the seat of the blast, analyze chemical residues, reconstruct process steps, and interview survivors. The ATF team includes chemists, engineers, and bomb techs trained for exactly this.
They should also talk to line workers about production pace, near misses, and whether raising safety concerns felt safe. In too many plants, speaking up feels like risking your job. That silence kills.
Another thread, communications. One outlet said 19 missing, then later 18. Hospital counts ranged from a few to 4 or 5. It is messy. The better path is staged updates, like every hour, as we heard.
That is what officials promised. Hourly updates, methodical verification, and transparency with families first. They also paused operations at the facility to focus on people and next steps for employees.
Meanwhile, the public asks, were homes downwind exposed? Officials said they were unaware of hazardous materials spreading through the air, but neighbors still deserve air sampling and plain language guidance.
The state rep said, priority is life safety for first responders and clear info for neighbors. In a rural area that has lived through floods, they know disaster muscle memory. That counts tonight.
Let us widen the lens. Accurate Energetic Systems supplies defense and commercial customers, with federal contracts tied to munitions and demolition. Investigators will weigh contract demands against process safety.
Defense dollars should not buy shortcuts. If requirements drive overtime, lean staffing, or skipped maintenance, that is a policy failure too. Procurement can set safety floors, not just delivery timelines.
Also, small counties become defense hubs without big city infrastructure. That gap shows up in cell dead zones, mutual aid distances, and training budgets. Rural does not mean unprepared, but it does mean stretched.
We heard the sheriff thank networks that moved resources fast, despite the bad cell coverage. Behind the scenes, those calls matter as much as the press podiums we all watch.
And please stop sharing graphic images. The sheriff asked for restraint. Families are getting calls no one wants. Do not make their night worse for clicks. That is a minimum standard of decency.
Agreed. The sheriff's plea was clear. Be mindful of these families. This is a negative situation already. No need to add the downward spiral of rumor and shock images to grief.
Returning to unanswered questions, cause remains unknown. Whether the material was being melted, poured, or transferred at the instant matters. Whether equipment malfunctioned or a spark found fuel matters.
As does whether prior violations were fully fixed or merely resolved on paper. Settled disputes can hide lingering risk. Investigators should test that with evidence, not attestations.
One more conflict to log. As Ethan flagged earlier, company materials say manufacturers and tests. One state voice said processes. That will be clarified in reports. Until then, best to quote both and assume neither.
We also may learn whether any shaped charges, demolition charges, or small breaching devices were stored nearby. Proximity and quantity affect blast propagation. Storage maps become crucial forensic tools.
And if storage was too close, that is not fate, that is design. The campus is vast, 1,300 acres. Space exists to separate risks. If risks were clustered, we need to know why.
We heard the plant was up and running at the time. That suggests routine operations, not off-hours tinkering. Routine helps investigators compare to standard operating procedures and training checklists.
As Maya argued earlier, culture will be scrutinized. As Leo noted, physics and complexity can overwhelm. Both can be true. The inquiry must separate systemic choices from catastrophic chance.
And the remedy should be systemic too. Stronger oversight, worker input, emergency drills that assume the worst. You do not melt TNT like making candy. You treat it like lives depend on every step. Because they do.
For the community, pastors and school counselors will be just as important as investigators. The sheriff called them souls. That word matters. It is how folks here carry each other through long nights.
We will keep tracking key developments, confirmed numbers, the melt-pour reconstruction, the manufacturer versus process clarification, and any immediate safety directives for neighboring residents. When investigators share first findings, we will return with what they reveal about cause and responsibility. Until then, we leave you with the sheriff's reminder. One chance at the evidence, one duty to the families.
And one obligation to the workers who will show up to rebuild. Make sure they come home. That is the only standard that counts.